Because
we are live, everyone. Okay, so we're live again. For anyone who's tuning in on YouTube, great. Thanks so much for coming back in. My name is Jesse. I'm with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. We bring conservation, adventure, and science to classrooms around the world and now homes around the world. So thank you so much for joining in. As we are joined by Nicole. She's an educator at the Vancouver Aquarium in beautiful Stanley Park in British Columbia. And today we're doing a little bit of a special session. We're not focusing so much on animals. We are focusing on some amazing people and the research that they do nearby. The connection was really weird last time. For anyone coming in for the second time, I apologize for that, but welcome back in. And we're going to try and really nail it this time. So we appreciate you coming back in. And I'm going to turn it over to Nicole. Thanks so much again, Nicole.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole from the Vancouver Aquarium. And Vancouver Aquarium is an initiative by Ocean Wise Conservation Association. So I'm really happy to be here to share my knowledge, to hold this session in the traditional land of the Coast Salish people, including Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. So today we are going to talk about careers in conservation. And I brought two biologists with me today, and they are the biologists in charge of our biodiversity research here in British Columbia, because for Vancouver Aquarium and Ocean Wise Conservation Association, we're so close to a region called Howe Sound, and the biodiversity there is really, really rich that a lot of scientists are actually trying to learn about it, to try to learn about the distribution of the animals there, as well as the relationship between the animals, human, as well as the ecosystem. So I'm going to hand it over to Fiona and Amanda and to welcome them to the section and let them talk about what's going on with their projects.
Cool. Thanks, Nicole. I'm Fiona.
And I'm Amanda. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. We thought we would start by telling you a little bit about where we work for any of you that don't know where Howe Sound is. If you're not from the area, you can see on the map that's on your screen right now. We got Vancouver on the bottom, and then we got Howe Sound just above. So it's actually the southernmost fjord in Canada, and we're very lucky that we get to go out there every single week throughout the year, whether it's raining or snowing or beautiful sunshine. And we are the longest ongoing monitoring ecological program in all of the Strait of Georgia. So for almost 40 years, we've been studying this area, everything that happens underwater, all the animals, the fish, the critters, you name it. We are interested in what's happening and the different changes that we are seeing out there as well.
Yeah, in Howe Sound, we study a whole bunch of different animals. Some of them are fish species like rockfish that you might have heard of because they're often commonly caught and found. We also study things like glass sponges. So these are really cool structures that are built completely out of sponge, and they form these big areas in Howe Sound. And so we're really lucky in that we get to dive in these areas and look at these super cool animals, and also look at how things like climate change or changes in our ocean have impacted them over the past 40 years. Maybe Amanda, you could give a little bit of detail about like the types of field work we do, and then I can talk a bit about some of our individual projects.
Absolutely. So there's, as Fiona mentioned, there's lots of different projects that we do. And when we go out on the water, so we're on a boat, there could be about maybe 4 or 5 of us on this boat, ready with our scuba dive gear. And throughout the year, we always have different projects. So we might be doing ongoing monitoring, which is kind of observing certain species to see, how their population structures might be changing throughout the year or even within their different species. Sometimes we do what are called transect surveys. So we might take basically just a measuring tape and we put it on the ground and then we kind of just count what is along that measuring tape. And we can remember where the area was. We'll take a GPS recording so we can go back to that site every single year and see how it's changing all the time. So it's really interesting for us because we create what's called a baseline. So a basic understanding of what's happening in that area. And then there we go. That's a great photo for it. So we got that measuring tape above the scuba diver there. And then we're recording on a slate, which is like an underwater board that you can write with underwater just using a regular pencil. And so we can write down what we're seeing along certain points of that tape. And then also in that photo, you can see in the diver's hand, we have what's called a quadrat. So we can also put that down on a certain area, and there's little squares in that bigger square, and we can see what is in each of that square. So if we're looking at like kelp, for example, we can see how much of that square is covered by kelp. And then we can go back to that site every single year to see, has it changed? Is it the same? And that can inform us about, what we're doing and how we can continue to help this ecosystem.
Yeah, so in addition to doing some long-term counting of different species, one of the cool newer projects that we've been working on is using baited cameras to look at fish populations in some of the deeper areas of Howe Sound. So here, there's a picture of what one of these camera setups look like. So when we put these down on the bottom using scuba diving, and so you can see there's two cameras and they're facing towards a little bait bucket, which is on the end of this pole. So in that bait bucket, we chop up really tasty things, or tasty things to fish at least. So little bits of herring or octopus guts that we get from the aquarists. And we put these down for a couple of hours. So when we scuba dive in some of these deep areas, we can only be down for maybe 10 minutes. But these cameras let us look at fish for a lot longer, and also let us look at them and how they behave when people aren't around. So I just wanted to show a really quick video of some of the cool stuff we see. So this baited camera we put down on one of those sponge reefs that I was talking about. So all of these white lumps are sponges that are made out of glass, and they have some super cool animals that live in these areas. So here we see a bunch of rockfish. We actually have 3 different species in this video that are all coming in to check out this bait. And as you can see, it's not just fish that really like the bait. There's also this little crab that has managed to climb up onto the sponges and is trying to also get at the bait. So we get to see a lot of super cool animals. And going through the videos, there's actually been some really interesting things that we've seen. So here in the top corner, we have the rockfish that we were just looking at, but sometimes we also get super cool things. So we get these little sharks called dogfish that are actually pretty common in Howe Sound, but we never get to see them diving. So they come in because it smells delicious. In the bottom, this is a Ling Cod. He's a type of fish that's actually very big. They can be like a meter long, that's coming in to say hi. And then of course, what doesn't love herring? Seal love herring. So seals come in as well, which is sometimes annoying because they chase everything else away, but they're still really cool to see. And so, yeah, so that's one of the main projects we've been doing. And we're currently busy looking at all of this video footage, which is super cool, but takes a lot of time to go through. So I'll let you know if I find anything really interesting pop up later on.
Always interesting. And then we sometimes get to do different types of projects as well. As you can see on the screen right now, this is another more recent project called Sculpting Rockfish Habitat. So as you can see in here, we've got some really cool sculptures that were recently put in the ocean in Howe Sound, and they're meant to act as habitat for rockfish and for lots of different species, creating new space, new home for them. So this was kind of a new project for us, the first time we've ever done something like this, where we actually engaged the art community to create these sculptures for us. And we gave them lots of criteria about they need to have, open spaces or hiding areas for fish to be able to escape from their predators. And they came up with these beautiful ideas of, what would be a home for a rockfish, or sculpins, as you can see on the bottom right, or you can see perch on the photo on the left. And we're going to go back and continually monitor these sculptures to see, are they good homes and habitat for different animals? What kinds of animals are they attracting? Are they even going to attract rockfish? That's our hope, because they're a species that has declined in Howe Sound. And we want to see if maybe artificial reefs are one type of way that we can help their population, help that habitat restoration. And what's also really cool about this is we're engaging the dive community as well. So this site in particular is at Porto Cove, which is a very popular shore diving place for all the scuba divers in the local community. And they can go out and they can see these sculptures themselves, and they can actually tell us what they're seeing as well. So it doesn't just have to be us, we're engaging everybody who wants to be involved and help us to understand how animals move into these new homes and how they're using them. So we always are finding lots of interesting things with our research. And part of that has led to protections for different animals as well. So one of the reasons, why we do this work is not only to learn and understand about these animals, but know how we can continue protecting them and helping them. So with that, well, as I mentioned already, rockfish are a species that are really important in our waters here, but their populations declined, especially in the 1990s from overfishing and illegal poaching. And so the government actually implemented rockfish conservation areas. And from the long-term monitoring research that we were doing, we were able to help establish those areas to figure out which are the best ones that would be good to protect, to make sure that there's no fishing going on, so that we can ensure that their populations have a chance to rebound and grow. So that's just one example of how doing this ongoing monitoring and observing these animals can lead to real life solutions to be able to help these species.
Yeah, and another cool feature of this ongoing monitoring is that we get to see when things change in house sound. So because we're always out there, we're on the water, we know what species we might expect to see in some areas and what might be brand new. And one of the really cool things that we saw last year was that there was this jelly that showed up at one of our sites. And it's actually invasive, so it hasn't been seen in house sound before. And because some of our divers, particularly a lady called Donna Gibbs, have been diving there for over 40 years, she was able to recognize that this species isn't normally found there. So that's pretty cool that we get to see range shifts or like new species coming in, or we also get to see if a species stops coming to a certain area. And that kind of information is really important for us to know so that we can understand how climate change or how we are impacting these species in an area. So I think that's a pretty cool feature of some of the work that we get to do.
Yeah. One of the other things too about having this long-term monitoring is that we can not only see when there are new species coming in, but also when species are starting to disappear. So some of you may have heard about the sea star wasting syndrome that affected multiple species of sea stars along our coast. One day they were there, and then the next day they were gone, pretty much overnight. And so when people started to notice this was happening, they were able to come to us and we're able to look through our records and say, okay, these are all the locations where we used to see these sea stars and now they're not there. And so there's still no solution of understanding why exactly this is happening. We know there's some sort of virus, but they're still being affected. And so we can, again, continue to go out and see, okay, are we seeing any new animals coming in or any young species to help track their recovery, which is really important because there are some sea stars that we have off our coast that are really important predators, like the sunflower sea star. They're one of the top predators off of our coast, and without them, everything kind of goes out of whack. So more animals that they would normally be eating, and we don't necessarily want that because it kind of puts everything out of balance, puts everything really weird. So we're hoping that they do come back, but again, by always monitoring, that's one of the ways that we can understand what exactly is happening out here in our oceans. So really, really important stuff.
Nicole, do you want to hop in with any questions or?
I do. So amazing team, because you guys also went out and do a lot of research for us. And I would like to ask you a question about like, how can the public in British Columbia or even across Canada or North America can help to contribute to the research that you're doing?
Sure. Amanda, do you want to?
Sure, yeah, I can go for that. Well, there's so many things that you can do. So regardless of where you live or where you're from, you have an impact on the ocean in your everyday lives. So one thing could be know where your seafood is coming from. If you do like to eat seafood, choose ocean-wise seafood or something where you know that it's been sustainably caught, where it came from. So we're not impacting populations that maybe need a little bit more help or don't have as many numbers. And so that's one really good way that we can help. But another thing too is just being aware of what's in your backyard. Even if you're not living on the ocean, just going outside and knowing what animals kind of live in your near your home, and knowing what they need to be able to survive, because everything is connected in some sort of way. And knowledge is so powerful to know, understanding what they are, how you can, spread awareness to your friends, to your family, and then also helps you to start caring about these animals as well, and caring about your environment, because we're all connected, whether it's through the air, through the water, and everything counts, everything has a role to play. And so knowing how you can protect the environment goes a long way as well.
Yeah, that's for sure. And Ocean Wise really have a seafood campaign that we can actually try to find ocean-wise seafood in order to consume them, so that we don't harm the environment that much. And most importantly is we keep on explore about the science, about the ocean. The more we know, the more we can do to help the environment. So I have one more question for both biologists, is that if I am a student studying science and studying for a lot of things, what can I do to become a biologist like you guys?
You want to go first, Fiona?
Sure. I think, honestly, I think the biggest thing for me becoming a biologist was just curiosity. Like, I went out all the time to look at cool animals. I learned to scuba dive, which was super fun because I was lucky enough to live by the ocean. So that was really cool because I got to explore stuff. And then I kind of decided, I was like, hey, these are super cool animals. Like, I want to go to school to study them, and I want to figure out how to do that. But I think that, like, visiting places like aquariums is super useful for understanding like what kinds of things are out there, what kinds of things do people do. It helps you learn about like projects we study and what kind of questions people ask. So, what's important to understand about the ocean? What do we need to do? Like, what don't we understand in order to protect these animals? So I think just like asking a lot of questions, and instead of just being like, oh, that's a cute animal, thinking about like, that's a cute animal, like, how can I help protect it? Or like, how can I understand like, how it works in its ecosystem? So I don't know. I think I just asked a lot of questions when I was younger.
You're a natural born scientist. And to add to that, I also say like there's so many things that you can study as well in school. So continuing your biology studies, but that might be in zoology, or it might be in conservation or forestry or the environment. There's so many different streams. So I always say like find out what makes you happy, what makes you excited, or what you're passionate about, and just pursue that, even if you're not really sure where that might lead one day. Because I know for myself, when I learned to scuba dive, I never thought that I would have a job that allowed me to scuba dive and I would get to research animals in the ocean. So it was just a hobby that was going to be for me that turned out to be a career. So you never know where life is going to lead you.
That's very cool. So Jesse, do you have any questions to ask Fiona and Amanda as well?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for that fantastic presentation, ladies. That was awesome. For everyone tuning in on YouTube, and we have people from Alabama, Kansas, Ontario, and more. So thank you guys for joining in, and type as many questions as you can in the chat bar. I will take as many as we can over the next 10 minutes. The first question from our viewer in Kansas, which is a hard one. What is your favorite animal or favorite sea creature? No pressure at all.
You go first, Fiona.
Well, my favorite animal, I have a favorite animal, but it's also very hard to describe because it's kind of weird. It's this little fish. It's called a grunt sculpin. Oh. And so the cool thing about this fish, so you picture fish normally and they swim in the water. This fish likes to spend most of its time on the bottom, and it legitimately has two fins that it like uses as like little legs, and it kind of just like hops around, and it's really cute and it has like a little pig-shaped nose. So I think it's cool.
I can vouch they are super cute.
And Amanda, or is that your favorite too? Like you have to top Fiona's like awesome demonstration of what the fish is. That's part of the session now.
I can definitely try. Well, I think My favorite ocean animal is one that I think everyone can resonate with. It's the sea otter. I absolutely love them. They're adorable. They're super fuzzy. They're super cute, and they go like this on their little face, and it looks like they're giving themselves a massage all the time. We're lucky that we have some at the Vancouver Aquarium, and I'm totally obsessed. But they have super cool features about, you know, how they're able to survive out in the ocean. They got pockets under their arms. Like, who has pockets? And they carry on rocks, and they're just awesome. They're super awesome. I love them.
Animal demos now have to be an official part of every Oceanwise session, Nicole. So I hope you're going to make that happen. That was fantastic. Huge thank you too. We had our guy Alfonso from Peru and Chile in the school that's right on the border there. So we've got people from all over the world literally watching this presentation. So thank you guys for tuning in after those tech difficulties at the beginning. So I'd love your answer to favorite animal. This is a question we get all the time as well. Do you have a favorite part of your job? Is there something that really gets you up in the morning when you go out to work?
Do you want to go first, Amanda?
Sure.
Amanda's turn to go first. Amanda keeps putting Fiona on the spot. Let's do it.
I'll go first. Well, I know for me, I love being out on the water and underwater and just exploring all the time. I mean, it doesn't matter even if we went to the same site every single day, it's always different. There's always new things to see or to discover. And that's what makes it so exciting and interesting, because you never really know what to expect. And I think like a lot of scuba divers probably feel the same way, but like I could just be looking at a rock for an entire hour and I won't get bored. Like that sounds super boring, but there's so much to see. And even just watching like an anemone like open and close, open and close. I don't know, it's so fascinating. So I love being around all the different animals and critters that we get to see.
Yeah, okay. So I can't really say anything different, because that's also my favorite part. Like, I love going in the field. But I guess a twist on it is that I also really like designing experiments in the field, because it's just like, it's like problem solving, right? You might be like, how do I go count trees, you know, on my street? Intuitively, that's pretty easy. You're like, I'm going to walk down the street and I'm going to count them. But if someone's like, okay, you have 15 minutes, how are you going to count all these animals underwater? It's like, well, okay, this is going to be a lot harder. I need my buddy. I need to carry all my things. And so actually, that's one of the parts I really like, is it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like going to space, but underwater. It's like this weird exploring and figuring out how to do things in a new way. And I think that's what I really love about doing like science underwater. Yeah, so that's one of my favorite parts.
Amazing, ladies. If people weren't jazzed coming into this session, your enthusiasm has definitely rubbed off. By the way, I want to stress everyone tuning in at home too. If this doesn't inspire you to become a scuba diver, I don't know what will. And for kids tuning in at home, if you're 10 years old, you can get started on the path of becoming a scuba diver. So I got my certification last year, but you guys can do it at 10 years old. It's a really amazing thing. And as you can see from these ladies, it will change your life. It's a very fun thing to be able to explore the underwater world. So a question we just got, which is, if there anything specific that you would research if you could, like if you total free reign, blank slate, what would you be fascinated in studying?
Oh,
That's tough.
Blank slate and like all the money in the world.
Hey, we've had fun with it so far, hypothetical. Let's do it.
Well, I don't know. It's hard because I mean, one of the things I love about my job is that I do get to study the things I want. Like, I love that we can work in like where we live. Like, that's one of the coolest things. So for some of my grad school work, I was very fortunate and I got to do a lot of work in the tropics, which was amazing. And I studied lionfish and I got to look at invasive species in the Caribbean. But I love the work I do now because it's so relevant to where I live. I get to study how things that I do or that we do in this community impact the ocean directly. And I think, like, I don't know, it's hard. I kind of like, I really, I sort of am doing my dream research. I don't know. What would Amanda, what would you do?
I'm not really sure either. I know I'm like super fascinated by nudibranchs. I don't know what I would study about them, but they're just so cool. And like, for anyone who doesn't know what a nudibranch is, it's basically a sea slug. And they live underwater. They don't have any outside shells or even inside shells. And they look very unassuming. But if you really get to know them and certain species, you'll find out that they're actually really great predators. So you may not think of, like, you know, some nudibranchs can be maybe like a couple centimeters long. Some of them can be a couple inches long. But one of the larger ones that we have here in off our coast in British Columbia, it's called the giant nudibranch. And they actually prey on anemones. Super cool is that they will like basically arch their back and jump and go down the tube of a tube dwelling anemone and eat them. It's like, I don't know how they figured that out or how they realized like, a stinging animal, I really want to eat that. But there are also some nudibranchs that can incorporate those stinging cells into their body and act as an added protection against their predators. So like just super fascinating animals that you really wouldn't think twice about.
Oh.
Amazing. Before I turn it back to you, Nicole, I want to wrap up with one last question with you, Fiona and Amanda, and that is, what can we share with kids that are tuning in today to get them inspired about the ocean? I mean, you guys have drunk the Kool-Aid, you're super excited, you live and breathe this stuff. How do we inspire kids at home to get excited? Any resources you can share or any ideas that you want to like end us off with?
I mean, I think so. One cool way that you can like look at animals and see some of the cool things you're talking about, well, especially the sea otters that Amanda was talking about, is that the OceanWise has a whole bunch of live cams, so you can tune into those. You can go to the OceanWise website and you can find the live cams, so you can look at what some of the critters are doing. So even though we can't be physically at the aquarium right now, you can spy on them and see what they're doing. So that's one really cool way to visually get involved. And I know that there's also a lot of great videos about some of the animals that we have at OceanWise that you can also tune into. Amanda?
Yeah, I would say there's probably tons and tons of books that you can, you know, get from your local library or maybe that are in your school. You know, you can look at different pictures of the different animals and see, you know, what does a nudibranch look like? You can, you know, Google that as well. But books are really cool because it adds that little bit extra information, things that you may not have known otherwise, and it gives you that context for where everything is. And just go out and explore. Even again, if you're not even by the ocean, maybe you're by a lake or a stream, but just kind of walk down and see, like, you know, what is kind of living around in that area, because you never know what might inspire you, what might be really interesting. And if you happen to go on a vacation at some point in the future when we're allowed to travel again, maybe you can go to the ocean and see what's there as well. But, you know, just keep exploring, keep asking questions like Fiona was talking about before, and you never know what you might learn through that.
Amazing. Well, for everyone tuning in at home, I've put the education.ocean.org OceanWise site in the YouTube chat bar, as well as the Vancouver Aquarium live cams. As a book, I highly recommend Smithsonian Ocean. It is absolutely stunning, just some of the most beautiful drawing, illustrations, pictures of animals you'll ever see. And Blue Planet and Blue Planet 2, BBC series that are the best resources at home. And you guys have nothing else to do other than watch a whole DVD series, so it's fantastic timing. Nicole, before we wrap up, would you like to tell us anything more about OceanWise, what you guys are up to, or just end us off? Go for it.
Oh, cool. So for OceanWise, we're continuously doing a lot of research. Even though we're closed here at the Vancouver Aquarium, but our research work is keep on continuing, and support us by donate to us, as well as try to learn more about the ocean on literacy.ocean.org. We have an online platform for all the students and educators. You can go there and then try to do quizzes, games, videos, as well as to talk to our educators there. So I can't wait to see you there on the platform.
Fantastic. Again, we couldn't have had a more enthused session if we tried. OceanWise really does have some of the best online education resources in the world, so I really encourage you to check those out. Thank you so much to our viewers from all over the US, Canada, and all the way down in South America. We really appreciate you being today. Talk to you soon and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everyone. Bye, ladies.